Well, the biggest bet, Brian, the biggest wager that we can place here today is how much of NXT do you think I actually watched?
I wasn't sure if you were going to watch the whole thing or just the main event. Now, as I watched it, and I didn't thoroughly watch it, it was on in the background while I worked, but I saw what would have been the single most embarrassing display I had seen on a wrestling show this week if it had been, well, if there had not been a Wednesday night show. But
yes,
this was an embarrassing display on multiple levels, and what a garbage fucking show.
The record only stood for 24 hours on the worst Halloween theming episode of a wrestling program, although they swerved us good. This was a swerve. We thought for sure, okay, Rex Steiner, good old Braun Breaker, is going to be the new champion. He's going to beat Tommaso Ciampa the way they've been pushing him. They swerved us. They switched every other title in the company but that one. I hate to give a spoiler there, but I'll give a spoiler. Chucky, I guess there's a movie tie-in. They got some money. Chucky was in the cold open, more Chucky during the program, Chucky giving the stipulations, whatever. It reminded me of Jim Hurd's WCW with a budget. Remember one time we got like 60 seconds from Elvira once, right? But this was all through the show. The Stairway to Hell triple threat ladder match for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship featured Zoe Stark and Io Shirai versus Indy Hartwell and Persia Pirotta versus Gigi Allen and Jane Wayne Gacy.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yes, you may.
Until I watched this, I didn't realize that those were the actual names a couple of those women used. I thought they were just nicknames you assigned them.
Well, is she Gigi something or whatever she is? And good old Jane Wayne Gacy. Anyway, Toxic Attraction won those belts. And then it was night. It was a dark night, a dark and stormy night. There was a swamp and a haunted house. And Carmelo and his friend Trick, who, by the way, I zipped through a lot of this, so I'm not sure whether this week he's still bout it. But they're in the car pulling up at Dexter Loomis's house that made the Munsters house look like a subdivision out in fucking Lido Beach. They did the Gangsters in the Graveyard with a budget and not realistically. And unlike the Gangsters in the Graveyard segment from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, the talent did not just make this up as they went along. They actually all intended to do this shit. And that's what makes it really bad. This was on purpose. They had multiple cameras. They had the opportunity to edit. They did this shit on purpose. And through the running gag was that Johnny Sameface and Dexter Loomis are in the house playing tricks on them. And there's zombies jumping out at them, and there's phony music, and there's changes of scene, and they came back to that a couple of times in the fucking course of the thing.
Did you see the bump in the ladder match, the Io Shirai bump when Indy Hartwell pushed the ladder?
Fortunately, no.
Ooh, it's pretty brutal. I thought you would have seen it. Everyone was posting it on Twitter. Really brutal.
I was able to avoid pretty much this entire match from bell to bell. Have you noticed that Joe Gacy looks like a kid on Halloween cosplaying Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor? He's not quite as fat. He's not quite as unkempt. He's not quite as good a worker, and he's not quite as good a talker. But he kind of looks like somebody dressing up like Kevin Steen. He kind of looks like a Kroger bag boy if he's not dressed up as something. Then they had a Halloween party that they did a couple of different segments on this where all of the Halloween or all of the talent at the Halloween party were dressed up like either idiots or themselves, or in some cases served both purposes at the same time. And they're all just, have you ever seen anybody go to a party like that where they're all dancing, but they're dancing in place? And they're not really looking at the people that they're supposedly interacting with because they're trying to be at a party for a camera? What the fuck was all that?
That was right off Saturday night's main eventer, TNT. That wasn't good.
It looked like it was right off Saturday Night Live. The next segment I watched, because Malcolm Bivens, who actually, you could get some mileage out of Malcolm Bivens if he had a good television program to be on and talent that they were in some way going to push besides poor Roderick Strong, who looks like a spare prick at the wedding in this group. He was Undisputed Era, fit perfectly, and here we've got 4 guys that picked a number at the fucking deli at Kroger. But they issued an open challenge, and out came Odyssey Jones. Odyssey Jones versus Roderick Strong, not for the cruiserweight title, by the way, because obviously that would be just wrong, since Odyssey weighs 400 and Roderick weighs barely 200. But Odyssey Jones, what personality. Can you imagine what Bill Watts could have done with that guy in Mid-South Wrestling? He may have gotten over better than Junkyard Dog.
Oh, come on.
I see the face, the smile, the body, the personality, the work already for that size. He's not dangerous. And you can tell he's trying to learn how to sell properly for a big guy to make a match, but not to sell like just a cruiserweight or whatever. But Roddy's great with layouts of stuff like this. He should be, if not a trainer, one of the trainers in NXT by the time his career winds down. But he was able to get some heat on Odyssey Jones and worked his leg and stayed on him. And then finally, Odyssey Jones makes the comeback. Boom, 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 bumps the heel Stooges. And as he turns around, Roddy runs up behind him with that leaping knee that it looked like what Twinkle Toes tries to do, and it looks like shit, but this one looked good. You couldn't even see through it in slow motion because I tried. Boom, 1, 2, 3, and got a quick one on him and out of there. I love Odyssey Jones. I'm just telling you, if they don't fuck this guy up, he's going to get over big. What'd you think of that one? Did you watch any of that?
I watched some of it. I think Odyssey Jones has a lot of potential. I think Roddy's always good. Like you said, I don't like Roddy the way he's being used. Nothing against Bivens or anyone else there, whoever that girl is. The Muscles. I don't know who any of these people are. To be quite honest with you, other than Roddy. And look, he'll be in AEW with all of his friends sooner rather than later. So I mean, whatever he's doing to finish out his time here, that's the way I look at it. Unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately, I would like to see him in a place that would utilize his talents better. But unfortunately, the phrase "he'll be with all of his friends," we're about to see here shortly what that'll do to certain people like Adam Cole. Anyway, and another Halloween party segment. And then they had a spin the wheel, make the deal match for the NXT Women's Championship. And the wheel spin was a Chucky's Choice match. So Chucky, the fucking doll, picked a trick or street fight. No DQ, no count out, no Jim Cornette. Mandy Rose versus Raquel Gonzalez. They had Raquel Gonzalez ride a motorcycle into the arena from outside, so now she's Magnum Ta now. And you'll never guess, they used kendo sticks and also chairs and a table, etc., etc. And I zoned out. And Mandy Rose beat Mandy Rose, that teeny tiny little lingerie model, beat Raquel Gonzalez, that 6-foot Amazon.
She's not that teeny, is she?
Well, she looked teeny next to Raquel Gonzalez.
I didn't even recognize Raquel Gonzalez when she rode out on the bike. Last time I saw her, she was just like the bodyguard to Dakota Kai.
Well, they put her in a different outfit. And then they changed Mandy Rose's hair color. So that makes all the difference in the quality of her wrestling. That's why she's winning now. She got brown hair. They more gangsters in the graveyard. Then I stopped and tried to understand what was going on here. Grayson Waller who has the worst name ever in history of wrestling, behind Radford Tyndall and Ken Raper. Waller was dressed as Dracula, but he was arguing with L.A. Knight, who was dressed as Dracula. But then Solo Sikoa, the new Samoan star, came out and got a music entrance. He looks good, but he got in the ring, grabbed Grayson Waller and tossed him out and stood there. And that was it. That was flat as a plate full of piss. So,
yeah, and then the fans start chanting Uso, I thought, because he is related to them. So why do you have him using a different name that's clearly made up when everyone knows he's related to the family?
Well, but also that Zion Quinn that they debuted a couple of weeks ago, and he's part or somehow Samoan, and he looks great too, but then now they've got competing Samoans.
The next segment. It was the next segment we saw the guy. I was like, wait a minute. This isn't even the guy we just saw. It's another guy doing the same exact gimmick. What is this?
So then the NXT Tag Team Championship was on the line with Imperium, old Marcel Marceau and Fabian Forte, taking on MSK, those with the prison tattoos and the lose-a-bet haircuts. And for this one, they had some 12-year-old fucking fan spin the wheel, and it became a lumberjack-o'-lantern match, where the lumberjacks came out in costumes. And I'm done. And Imperium won those belts with a bunch of morons running around in costumes around ringside as the lumberjacks. So it was impossible to watch and in any way concentrate on, take seriously. I like the Imperium guys, MXK, whatever they are. It's just flippy outlaw talent. And by the way, did you notice there has still been no good reason, bad reason, or any reason given why Samoa Joe came back, engaged in a thrilling 3-week feud with Karrion Kross, won the title, and then gave it up and disappeared? What the fuck was that all about? And then we had a very nice package, that's what she said, on Tommaso Ciampa and Rex Steiner. And, both guys, it built them both well. They're both well-spoken in their own way. And good old Steiner is a 250-pound genetic freak. But it was nice to hear that very familiar line being delivered in that very familiar way. I like Tommaso Ciampa comes out in a gladiator costume, but he looked fucking great. Now that if you're going to be in a costume on a Halloween show, that fit. Did you notice something when they did the in-ring introductions? Braun Breaker got no reaction from the people. No yay, no boo, no. It's like Braun Breaker, and it was kind of.
Well, it's also you say that, and I did notice that, but I also noticed because there's no introduction. Here is in this corner, Braun Breaker. No,
yeah, well,
no hometown, nothing.
No hometown, no weight, whatever. But it was abrupt, yes. But I'm thinking that's the place where because Ciampa is pretty much Mr. NXT right now. So one would think that anyone, he's the last link practically to any good shit they've seen over the past few years. So they don't want to boo him. They don't want to cheer the person he's wrestling, but they didn't want to boo Steiner because he's kind of getting over with them. And they were doing dueling chants later on in the match, but there was no negative reaction to any of these guys. And that's why I'm just trying to figure out why they had to rush Steiner into something with probably the most popular guy left on the brand. I don't know. One would have thought, since they just did something screwy with an NXT title switch with Samoa Joe, Karrion Kross, whatever, one would have thought they'd have let like LA Knight slip in and get this thing so Steiner could chase him for a few weeks and fucking win it off. I don't know. just have this fucking babyface phenomenon actually beat a heel at some point. Anyway, having said that, Ciampa may be the best all-around in-ring talent they've got now in NXT. He's just so good. Steiner shows Dr. Death Steve Williams level strength in the ring. Because a lot of the guys used to talk about this. A lot of the guys at that point in time were strong in the gym. Animal and Hawk and Warlord and Barbarian and all those guys, but nobody showed their strength in the wrestling ring like Dr. Death did. Especially, they've just tweeted the clip recently. We're in that War Games match where Gordy was 300, and he press slammed Gordy and kept doing reps with him up into the cage, right? When you're watching Steiner, and I know Ciampa's 205 or whatever pounds, but when Steiner grabs a hold of him, he's completely off the ground, and it doesn't look like Steiner's trying. In like a waistlock from behind, or just he's just moving people around, and he's got a natural idea of what to do, even if he's not experienced in terms of number of matches. And also the shit that he does, a lot of which looks like what Rick used to do, as I mentioned, is shit that you can do. It's almost unfuckable uppable as long as you're strong enough to do it. That's the hard part. And so this match to me was amazing for somebody with this level of experience, even with Ciampa kind of being the general here. And, finally Steiner was selling, which he didn't do too bad. When Steiner made his comeback, the people were still doing the dueling chant. And it kind of came out of nowhere. If you'll notice, Steiner just got the opportunity to just start doing shit. There wasn't a transition point where you see him realize he's got the chance and then fire up and look at the people and then come in and put a little extra oomph in that. That's an experience thing. But because of that, I don't think that the fans got into it as good as they could have there. And then he went for the Bulldog, which would have gotten a big pop because people would have recognized it, and he slipped and fell off the ropes. But Ciampa was immediately right on him to cover, and of course a kick out, but then they were able to get back into it, and Ciampa hit his widow's bell again for a 2 count, but the crowd was just chanting and not really popping. And I'm starting to wonder, I don't know how the folks get into they're still in the performance center, right? Or in their building there that they've been using.
I believe so. I think they just revamped the building. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, is this the same people as always? Is this invited guests? Is this people that are trying to make noise because they know they're supposed to, but it's not a regular group of fans because they were, like I said, they were chanting a lot, but not popping a lot. So it wasn't like they were disinterested. But the reactions were a little odd. Maybe it was because it's a babyface match. Anyway, Steiner hit the Frankensteiner. So he's got that going for him. And then I like the way that Steiner went for the press into the power slam that he's been doing, and Ciampa countered it into a inverted DDT. Both of them sold. I don't know whether it was a potato or a little magic, but when Ciampa DDT'd Steiner onto the concrete and threw him back in, Steiner was bleeding from the head. But it wasn't enough that you would think that it was meant to be that way. So I'm wondering if that was just fortunate juice and he was just a little tight on the DDT. I don't know. And then Ciampa, what does Ciampa call his pedigree? Anyway, whatever he calls it, he hit it. And Steiner kicks out of it. So Ciampa hits 2 great-looking running knee lifts. Make it 3. And then another pedigree move or whatever. Boom. 1, 2, 3. It was a good match. But again, you just beat the guy flat when you hit him with 4 or 5 things. Yes, it shows it took a lot to put him away, but you still put him away. As Ricky Morton used to say, and a lot of other guys too, that just showed it takes a good man to beat me, but it don't take him long. What? I mean, I know he had slipped up earlier accidentally, but I can see the finish being fucking him hitting that Bulldog at one point, getting a close 2 3/4 and going for it again, and then slipping and boom, and then Ciampa quickly capitalizes with the pedigree move 1, 2, 3. Then, as he said and promised, Steiner had drowned in a sea of inexperience. But instead, one big move, 3 knee lifts, and another big move. That's not drowning in a sea of inexperience. That's standing there in front of a fucking shotgun over and over. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. So I didn't like the way they beat him. But otherwise than that, this match was much better than anybody should hope for with his level of experience. What'd you think?
I think if you're going to beat him, he shouldn't be in the title match. It's too early to beat him.
Well, I agree with that.
Nothing against Ciampa, but this guy, for someone who's not too tall, which I didn't even realize until the other day, he's not a tall guy, but he looks more impressive than some of the taller guys. Because he's a fucking Steiner.
Yeah. Neither Rick nor Scott are more than 6 feet tall, I don't think. They're about to, maybe Scott may have an inch on Rick.
Look, he's really impressive, and here's the problem. I'm not going to say anything else about this match. There's nothing else I could add to that. But I wanted to see this match, and I had to sit through this whole fucking show to get there. And if I wasn't insistent on seeing this match, I would have given up multiple times. This was a dreadful show, filled with bad comedy, bad acting, and I'm not exactly sure who the audience for any of this is. People say other than Vince. I can't imagine Vince is watching NXT. If he is, that poor old man needs a fucking hobby. Because even though he owns this company, that show is just miserable. And it was just terrible. Just even the commentators, they're not bad people. But I hate the way they're brought, just everything gets brought back to that WWE fucking moron level. And I hate it. Braun Breaker's really impressive. He lost, and it's stupid that he lost. Ciampa sticks out like a sore thumb now in that company. Because there's no one else there of any note. Trying to think what else. Fucking Wayne Bloom's son kind of has like fucking Frankenstein eyebrows. If you notice, like the bone above his eyebrow, it's almost like a fucking universal monster. That's it. That's all. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to start. I'm going to just start ripping on everyone.
He's a Jack Pierce makeup job. Holy mackerel!
I think you said
that is some serious. I said he looks like a Gorn a couple of weeks ago. That's some serious bone cartilage up there in that forehead.
And then that guy, what's his name? The fucking guy, the amateur wrestler of note. Not Gable, Steve, was it Parker Bordeaux they call him now?
Oh, yeah, Boudreaux.
Boudreaux, whatever the fuck. I don't even pay attention. He's got another guy with a tattoo on his neck. Jesus Christ, people. This guy was a name. This guy was an amateur wrestler. He had a look. Now they've completely changed who he is. He can't be who he is.
Wait a minute, who is he? I haven't even seen him yet.
He was on one of those matches. Wasn't he the guy at ringside with the tattoo on his neck? With the bald head or shaved head?
Oh, wait. A bald-headed guy came up to Joe Gacy, the Steen cosplayer, and he made some funny faces at him and they walked off together. Is that guy?
I think that's that guy.
Oh, boy. All right, well, they've blown that then, because
it's a terrible show. It's a terrible show.
This Gacy thing is it because it's somehow they're trying to make some right-wing fuckwit on the writing staff, or maybe they don't even believe in the shit, but they're trying to get on Vince's good side, is trying to say that, oh, well, this guy's a heel because he's the left-wing people that like safe spaces and all that stuff. It's a nonsense gimmick that's not being done well, because what would be well for that gimmick? And somebody's just trying to get brownie points with Vince for making this guy do it, because it's stupid. Ugh. But that was Halloween Havoc. My, how the mighty shows have fallen.